All right, a very good evening to everyone here on the SimRace South Africa official YouTube stream. It is my pleasure to introduce you to the start of 2022. We have a great lineup for this season with a whole bunch of new cars that we've selected, and we're going to be kicking off tonight with the Audi TT Sport Cup for the simTC series. We are, of course, at the Red Bull Ring tonight at Spielberg, Austria, and we're going to be kicking things off shortly on the national circuit. I'll be your host, Ryan Hill, today, and I'm going to be guiding you through everything we have in store. First thing, of course, is to have a look at the lineup, and we can see we have a nice full grid here of 22 odd cars on track. So that is in fact a full grid. It looks like everyone has made it in, so that is great. And you can see from the overhead helicopter shots here just how snowy the circuit is looking. So that is certainly giving a hint as to what's going on with the weather forecast, which could make things very interesting tonight. In fact, if we even just kick off with that right now, here's how things are looking today. So it's midday in Austria, but it is extremely cold. So you can see the ambient temperature is 10 degrees Celsius, but the road temp itself is actually even cooler, hitting the single digits, 9 degrees. And you can see the grip levels coming through there as well, starting off a little bit less than optimal, let's say, and quite a large number of laps required to get that gain as well. With an element of randomness. A little bit of wind, I don't think that's really going to affect them tonight. It's really just the cold temperature, which differs quite a lot from what the drivers had to go through early in the week. So we've reintroduced what we call HLQ, which stands for Hot Lap Qualifying. So from Monday last week, essentially, drivers had the entire week until Sunday night to clock their fastest lap times, which is essentially yields the divisions that they get divided into. So tonight we have the top 22 drivers, and let's have a quick little look at what they did and how that panned out. So you can see Philip Minnar topping the Division 1 HLQ after an almost monumental 500 laps, although even if, as I say that, if we skim down the list and look at P19 with Roxanne Bartel completing 1,278 laps. And notably, this is just on our HLQ servers. I'm sure a lot of drivers have put in their own practice either offline or on their own private team servers as well. So certainly kudos to all the drivers for putting in the effort required, essentially, to get these lap times down. Now, if you gaze upon the best lap column there, second from the right, what you'll notice is across the entire field, they're all in the 53s. So incredibly close tonight, and even just look at the top 5 or top 10 or so, literally split by hundredths of a second. So that is quite hectic, and nice to see some new names on this leaderboard as well. We're seeing Tian Elof there is new. Roxanne Bartel, of course, herself joining us for the first time formally, and then Caden Crewcamp is new. Who else am I seeing there? That's new. Kieran Patterson makes a return to the simTC series. Good to have you back, sir. And yeah, some old familiar names there as well. Let's have a quick look at the track layout. So I mentioned we're on the Red Bull Ring circuit. We're obviously on the national circuit. You can see the red outline there. It kind of cuts out that outer big loop that the GP circuit cars go around, and produces those lap times that you can see under a minute there. So they'll go down the pit main straight. What you'll notice happening, and Nick will probably guide you through it just now in his lap guide, but the first corner, T1, that Nicky Lauda curve, you can actually run quite wide legally and open up the radius of that turn quite a lot and gain a lot of speed and momentum through there. Then there's the sort of very tricky S-bends and the Worth corners, and then all the way down sort of the back straight, which you want to go as straight as possible before you hit the right corner, and then Red Bull Mobile, basically the last corner. But as we do that, we'll see what the drivers are doing currently, as we see a couple of cars making their way down the pit lane. A couple of other cars out on track, and you can see all the nice new liveries, and there you can see how wide they're making that corner as well. But yeah, certainly the Grumpy Monkey liveries jumping out at you on track with Brett Crowcamp right now. you'll see the timer in the top middle of your screen saying about 13 minutes left. That's how much time they have left of this qualifying session to put in their best lap. Here we can see drivers already putting in their times. They've completed their out lap, and the times are starting to trickle through to the leaderboard. We've got Nick topping with a 53.6, Brett followed closely behind Sass van der Vesthuizen, Sean Bingham, Hein van Nico, Kieran Patterson, Mike LaRue, Cameron Kelly, Hardest Boyson, I think that's Roxanne Bartle, because Ross Bartle has decided not to drive in the SimT series this season. But yeah, you'll see those names bouncing around quite a bit as drivers find their rhythm and settle in. And also just remember, going back to the weather, the track grip is going to continue to improve lap on lap as these drivers make their way around. And as a result of that, I would expect the qualifying times to continue to drop down. So we'll see just how much that is able to come into effect. But let's quickly run. Nick has prepared a hot lap guide for us, and I'm quickly going to roll that tape, and we can see the optimal sort of route around this track.
Alright, good evening everybody, and welcome to the first round of the 2022.1 Sim Race SA season. This, of course, the first round of the touring cars, and we are at Red Bull Ring National, and we are in the Audi TT Cup car. Of course, front wheel drive, push to pass, all of those things. We do not have any of that in qualifying. However, very cold, as you can see the temperatures at the moment, around 10 degrees all over, snow on the ground on the left hand side as we fly across the start line. Don't go into 6th gear, braking just after the 100, fling the car through Castrol Edge and up and over. Don't clip the yellow curb as much as I did there. That will actually slow you down a little bit. Braking hard into the second corner, very tricky this. Got to manage the brakes, manage the throttle, basically give yourself a little bit of oversteer to help turn the car in. Through Worth, you want to be absolutely flat sticks. Make this corner as straight as you possibly can. Give yourself the best possible run into this next right-hander. I flick the car all the way out to the left there. It does unsettle things through Rint, but it does work out about half to 10th quicker in the end. Through Red Bull Mobile, most difficult corner on the track in my opinion. Fling the car through 4th gear, 5th gear, and across the line we go for a 52.996.
A couple more cars are making their way around. I see Charles Wilkin has now gone to the top, just unseating Nick there, and Brett has also managed to pop his car into second place on the front row, so we'll see if Nick is able to answer that. We see Philip Minard just getting a personal best right now, also sporting the Grumpy Monkey liveries this season. Certainly seeing a lot of new drivers entering that official Grumpy Monkey team who have broken off from Point Blank Racing. Speaking of Point Blank Racing, just a quick hello to everyone in the chat salon. Matthew Boy shouting for Point Blank, Bruce Shock shouting for Cameron Kelly, C7 as well there, Vimpy de Beer shouting for all the Team Elite races that have made it in. See Tianis Ilof shouting for Tion. Tion is another one of our new races today, put in a really cracking HLQ time. James Stroud is there shouting for Sass. Rob, how's it? And we see Cameron Kelly just put in his personal best to go 8th. Then we can also see the lovely Grumpy Monkey Academy class livery. So that's something quite cool that the Grumpy Monkey team is doing, that they've fielded an academy team here, just helping some of the young talents nurture themselves and improve themselves. Just a little bit more about the cars we're using this season. So we're using the Audi Sport TT Cup. So we've gone back to a one-make supercar racing series essentially this season from Audi, which we're quite excited about. Some other cool things about the car. You got a 6-speed gearbox that put aside about 310 horsepower. But the other interesting thing is that these cars are equipped with P2P, which stands for push to pass. Now, during practice, but not qualifying, and it's available in the race, you can use up to 15 activations of push to pass. So during qualifying now, you'll see there's a little 0 on the back side window of the car, if you can kind of make that out, just above that monkey's head there. So it's not available during qualifying, but what you'll see is that in the race, those numbers will be visible to us, and they'll also be visible on the TV leaderboard. So you can keep an eye on that and see how many activations drivers have left. As we see Sass put himself up into 7th and head to pits. So he's probably putting on some fresh boots again, maybe topping up the fuel. Drivers likely running very low on fuel, just to eke out the best performance of these cars. So yeah, back to the cars then. Once the push to pass is activated, it adds about 30 horsepower to essentially boost the power output and allow cars to attack, and it can also be used in defense. If someone's drafting you down the straight and you want to try and counteract that. So it can add a lot of strategy, and that's something that could be quite interesting to see play out tonight. So just in terms of the race procedure, we've got about 7 minutes left of qualifying. Then we're going to have a brief sort of a 1-minute break, while drivers will have the time to go and load up their race setups and do their final prep as they build out the grid. We will be having a standing race start tonight. So no rolling sort of a formation lap or anything like that. No rolling start, it is a standing start. So hopefully no deaths into T1. There's some quite violent sausage curbs at the outside of T1. I'm not racing tonight obviously, but I was doing a little bit of practice earlier, and it can really unsettle the car. If you're not careful going around that corner, if you cut it in the wrong way, or if you run wide in the wrong way. So we'll have to see how energetic and aggressive drivers are getting into T1 a little bit later. And then the race itself, so we are in for a 60-minute race tonight, so it's 1 hour. There is one mandatory pit stop, which is also accompanied by a specific pit window. So in the 1 hour race, we've got the pit window opening after 10 minutes and closing 10 minutes just before the end of the race. So from after 10 minutes and up to 50 minutes, that's when drivers will have to make their stop. To clear their mandatory pit stop, they need to have put in at least 1 liter of fuel and or change their tires. So the strategy for these drivers, it's completely up to them as to what they do in the pits and how early or how late they do their pit stop. So that's something interesting to see. A little bit of tidbits that I've received from Nick. So we've just seen Philip actually dip into the 52. So this is what Nick was going to shout to me about. That he was expecting people to break into the 53 deads at the sharp end of the stick here in qualifying, and I think we've just seen exactly that. So the Guru's got it right. I can't quite see what tires drivers on right now, but actually no, I lie, I can see that Flip has just banged it out on hards. We've got Charles on mediums, Nick on mediums currently, and Brett on hards, and Michael on mediums, and then all the way down the field it's actually a mixed bag. So that's very interesting to see. I think obviously due to the cold temperatures, experimenting with the tires is something that's going to be quite interesting for drivers, especially during their race strategy. But yeah, mediums I believe give you about a 0.1 to 0.2 second advantage per lap, but just given obviously the softer compound, they're going to burn up, and after about 2, maybe max 3 flying laps, you're going to have reached the end of life of those, and you're just going to be slower otherwise compared to the hard tires. So all that's boiling down back to the pit stop strategy, so it'll be very interesting to see what guys do. I'm guessing a lot of guys may choose not to change their tires if they're running hard tires for the race. Maybe just do a little bit of a splash and dash on the fuel, or maybe they come in halfway and just fill in, half a tank of fuel, and they start the race with half a tank of fuel. Alternatively, some guys may run extremely heavy fuel tanks and just do a very quick splash and dash, because that'll shorten the length of time they spend in the pits. But then, you're looking at complications of making the car a little bit more unstable, because it's a lot more heavy. You might find the car bottoming out and is more difficult to be consistent with. It may also impact where they come out in traffic, when they've decided to take their pit stop. Some guys do well with back markers, Other guys, if they run light, I mean, you may run the risk of having a way to work through heavy mid-pack runners. So all these kind of things, I think you guys can hopefully stay tuned for and enjoy and see how all these different strategies are playing out throughout the race. Just seen Jonathan Bentz head to pits there in his Yellow Design Co. Ghostworks livery. And apologies for the spam on chat. Those are going to get removed very quickly. We've got A Life with Cars shining for Mike and BWR. Of course, that's Black Widow Racing. Let me see Rob there, or Jono rather, just getting out of the way on his outlap. Let's see how Sharon is getting on here for the Point Blank team. Peter Geldenay sitting in the pits. I wonder if he'll go out any second now. You've got to make sure that you have enough time to get your outlap done and save enough time for a flying lap. So we may see him come out shortly, otherwise he might just decide he's happy where he is in 15th. Gregory Hofart there in the Grumpy Monkey Academy livery colors. See Shiraz Dada. Kirk. Kieran Patterson for PWSR in their trademarked yellow livery vehicles. Looking to see what he can do tonight. But yeah, still at the sharp end of the stick here. We've actually got Nick still in the lead on a 52.9. We've also got Charles breaking into the 52s. Philip in the 52s now as well. Charles sitting in the pits. He does not have much time to go back out. We've just reached under a minute. If he doesn't leave in the next 2 seconds, which he isn't, I think that is that. So he's going to be sitting there in P2. Hopefully not low if anyone doesn't bump him down. We've got Philip in the colourful Grumpy Monkey liveries in third, essentially heading for his final flying lap. But Ivan Karamaker shining for Team Leech Racing. And yeah, Matthew, I agree with you, that Ghostworks car livery does look pretty damn cool. So we've got Philip here just about to cross the line, and he's unfortunately not improving on his delta, so he's going to have to be happy with that position. We are officially into overtime, so now essentially whoever's out on their flying lap will have to finish their lap, and that's where they'll sit. Mike LaRue doing very well for himself there up in P5. James Leach as well in P6 comes across the line in the Team Leach Racing livery. Teleports to pits. Sass still there out in Grumpy Monkey this time. Unfortunately, I've just seen James Leach Sr. suffer a disconnect to the server. I'm hoping he can get back in by the time of race. But yeah, I'm going to quickly pop to a 30-second ad break. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. All drivers are now sitting in the pits, most likely making their final, hopefully not too frantic, changes to their setups, getting ready for race, double checking, making sure they haven't set their qualifying setup. I've done that on occasion, not more than once. Accidentally selecting my qualifying setup and heading onto the race, and then finding out very soon after about 5 laps we've run out of fuel. It's not a great feeling. Okay, there we can see everyone's popped to grid now. And there's a little reminder on top which the drivers will be seeing as well, just reminding them to add a minimum of 1 litre of fuel or do a tyre change while the pit window is open. It's about 30 seconds left before the green light goes on. How's it, Andrin? Shining for Team Point Blank as well. Let's see if I can find the best camera for the start here, but you can see the grid lined up there in a multicolored grumpy monkey in P1, P3, P4 as the red lights come on. Lights are off and off they go. Let's see how they're all getting off, bunching up, going a little bit wide, 3 abreast into T1. Hopefully they can sort their lives out before they plow through the first corners. As we see Charles getting a relatively clean start. Unfortunately, not so much further back down. I saw a yellow car getting slammed into the wall there. Not entirely sure who that was, but we've got Charles out front now. Philip Minnaar followed very closely by Nick in the Grumpy Monkey cars. Just jumping further back down. Unfortunately, looks like Mike LaRue got held up. Not sure who else. This is back down at the field. Oof, Roxanne unfortunately just tapping the little back of Mike LaRue there, but they all seem to be keeping things in order. Not sure who that yellow liveried. Oh, as I see someone going off into the wall as well, unfortunately. Tiana's had a rough start here at the back in P20 right now. But jumping back up to the top now. Sharon Rajpal in P6, Hardest P5, James Leach P4. As we can see, that is sort of holding up the train to the rest of the field as P3 of Nick Hodgson now following Philip Minnaar closely, who is also on the bumper of Charles Wilkin. A couple of swaps further down, we see Peter Geldnes has just put a move on Sean Bingham just behind, and there's the Ghostworks livery of Jonathan Bentz there. A few more moves further down the field, we see Caden Crowcamp just inching his way past. As you see, they're trying to defend into T1, going inside. Oh, a little bit squiggly there as well. That was Sast van der Westhuizen in front of them in the Grumpy Monkey main class, just trying to defend, taking that inside line. We see a little bit further back, side by side, we have Mike LaRue, who's putting a move on Gregory Hofart in the Grumpy Monkey Academy field. We can see all the cars now trying to open up that T1 by going wide, but also being very careful not to go over that yellow sausage curb there. A couple more moves have just been made. Sharon Rajpal has just overtaken Hardest Boyser by the looks of it in Point Blank. I've also just seen Cameron Kelly, getting sideways there through the S-bends, followed very closely behind Fanika. You can see that Audi is looking a little second-hand, a little bit of a crumple on the back, and I think the front bonnet as well, we can see it's a little bit lifted. So he must have been involved in some early lap 1 incidents. Kieran Patterson has just got past Jonathan Bentz. We see them coming all side by side down the main straight. We'll have to see how this plays out into T1. Bentz taking the inside line, going defensive. Kieran trying to go around the outside. He straddles that sausage curb. We'll have to see if it unsettles the car or if Jonathan can make a move back here. But he's being defensive. He's going inside line for the following corner, which should be enough to defend that position if he can hold on. But look at this now, Brad Crew coming through on the inside of Grumpy Monkey livery, and is actually pretty much taking that position. Oh no, he's yielding it from Jonathan Bentz. He's made contact, and there's a heavy contact, and Jonathan Bentz tries to keep it in a straight line. And I've got a feeling that might be a request coming to the stewards later on to see who could have made better light of that situation. Nick Hodgson has just made a move on Charles Wilkin at the top end. Oh, Charles actually had a moment because he was in P1 earlier on, and now he's dropped down to third. Not quite sure what happened there. Apologies for missing that, but still all three of them neck and neck at the top end here. And we can see the purple flashes on the leaderboard as you know, persons putting in their personal bests. Lap times, we see Greg Hofart going side by side now with a couple of other of the Grumpy Monkey Academies. They're hunting packs. So they're having a nice little team battle there. Looks like a little bit sideways action there as I think, was it Roxanne getting the short end of the stick there, I think, unfortunately. The other key thing to note is now just when drivers are choosing to activate their push to passes, if you can maybe see, Roxanne has 17 push to passes left, a little icon, but you can also see them coming up on the leaderboard now. So font isn't the greatest readable, so apologies for that, but we can see Heinz-Nico, for example, is flashed blue, so I believe that is currently in use, so he's choosing to opt to fire it down the main straight and kind of either attack or make sure no one else gets the jump on him from behind. Cameron Kelly's already down to 12 activations. Most other drivers leaving a little bit in the tank, a little bit more in the tank, but there's still a long way to go. We're only about 5 minutes in, so that's the other thing is interesting to see is drivers using their push to passes quite generously in the first few laps. Sharon going side by side here with James Leach, Team Leach Racing Car versus Point Blank. Looks like Sharon's going to take that position for now, but he's followed very closely by James down the main straight here. James has the inside line down into T1. Is a little bit of an argy-bargy. I think there was a little bit of a contact there, but fortunately both keep going in the same direction. And we'll have to see if Harder's got a better exit there, which has allowed him to pull alongside and up the inside of Sharon Rajpal there, and he makes a... Sharon Rajpal makes a good move on James Leach there, just to take that position back. So lots of close battles, but clumps of cars sort of splitting up down the field. Go and have a look now quickly at Heinz-Nico, who is tucked in behind Caden Krokam. See a long string of cars making their way onto the main straight. Brett Krokam's just put in his personal best, so he's now finding his rhythm just behind Kieran Patterson ahead of him. So he looks to go through T1 there, try and carry as much speed. Sorry, that was T2. Onto through the S-bends now onto sort of that back straight. Ride on board with him bumper to bumper and see what he can do. Jackie just asking a question about the guys going off track to take the apex. It is allowed on certain corners, in particular T1, which you'll probably see Brett do now shortly. Very generous track limits, shall we say, not only in the sim but also in real life Red Bull track limits. So you'll see what Brett will probably do, or you see the cars in front of him just exiting off track here left and opening up T1 very wide and carrying it through. That is perfectly legal, and all the drivers were informed that they were able to do so, just to carry the speed through that corner. All closing in very, very sharply on Peter Geldenhuys in front of him. Sure. He's going to be looking to make his way past Peter Geldenhuys very shortly. We see Cameron Kelly make his way past Caden there at the back. Sharen's livery, I've got a request just to have a quick little look at it. There, we've seen it before. It's on track again. The Point Blank black and white Audi, very nice. Although I do recall now actually that Sharen isn't in Point Blank Racing, so I've got a funny feeling he may have selected the incorrect livery before joining the server. So that's why it's perhaps not showing correctly for him. Peter Geldenhuys making his, or defending his position against Brett Krokam. So still hanging in there. Nick's closest gap. We've still got the up in the front here with Nick hanging on behind Philip Minnow with a gap just over half a second. Still somewhat equal push to pass remaining for, well, between Philip and Nick right now. Philip looking at 13 activations, Nick 15, Charles 14, and then 12, 12, 12, 14. Sean Bingham is, I think he's harvesting right now down the main straight. Couple of moves here. Sass has just gone alongside Brett Crocamp, and I think has actually made that move, as he runs quite deep there after T1 though, and I think he may even have clipped that yellow sausage curb, which is going to allow Brett Kirkham to just retake that position quite safely. Further down the field we have Tian Elof, who has just had a minor incident with, I think perhaps Renier Leach. Not quite sure what's going on there. Renier does seem to be yielding that position, so he may have been involved and felt it was the gentlemanly thing to let Tian back around again. Matthew just confirming about Shrin that yeah, he's not on point blank team, but he's doing a good job in the livery, so he's just been borrowed essentially for tonight. Yeah, just a query coming about those external track limits and how they're gonna be faster out on the red bits of the circuit rather than on the gravel, the grey gravel tarmac. So I know certain circuits like Paul Ricard, for example, that those out of track limits, especially the blue areas in Paul Ricard and then the red areas in the most extremes, are made of essentially what you call sandpaper. Very much not good for tires. It's in lieu of sand traps essentially, and they can help with traction and make sure that cars don't go hurtling into the barriers. I don't believe that is modeled accurately or is even a feature present at Red Bull Ring. I'm not sure about real life or not. So certainly drivers have found that here, at least in the sim, that they can run wide on those certain corners, like we see that red and black car just in front of Tia. I think that might be Shiraz, yep, doing right now. Perfectly legal. Up to Cameron Kelly, who has a number of cars just behind him, defending against Caden Crewcamp, and is looking to attack Hein van Niekerk in front of him. He's got quite a lot of work to do here. You can see the bonnet slightly uplifted as well, so he's also nursing some damage. Aerodynamics here on these tin tops, I mean, depending on how severely damaged it is, it probably doesn't make too much of a difference. You just want to make sure you haven't got anything like suspension damage. That's really going to hurt later. It'll be interesting to see if the drivers opt to repair them in their scheduled pit stop or not, whether they've practiced it or not, and see how quickly the pit crew can essentially hammer out any bent panels and so on. So it'll be interesting to see. No one's obviously pulled the trigger on their pit stop yet. Everyone's still out. We can see the pit window is now open, of course, in the last 3 minutes, and will remain open for another 37 minutes. You can keep an eye on that at the top middle of your screen where the clock is down. It looks like Cameron Kelly, who I'm currently on board with, has let's look at the side window. Yep, 0 push to pass activations left, so he's left himself very dry for the final 3/4 or so of this race. Whether that was a conscious decision or if he was just a little trigger happy with the button on his wheel or not, we'll have to maybe see after the race if he mentions anything in the commentary. James Leach now hopping back up to the top for Team Leach Racing, and the lovely OC Breweries beer skin again featuring the season. Doing pretty well, looking pretty comfortable in 4th position right now. He's got a gap of about 3 seconds to Charles in front, but not so much of a gap, 0.7 to behind of Sean Bingham. I'm sure we can actually go on board with him and view a rear view camera. He's fallen back a little bit to see just how close Sean Bingham was getting to him. Perhaps we can go and have a look at someone like Stas van der Westhuizen's rear view right now. He's running pretty much by himself as well now. Peter Geldernes is a little few cars behind. I don't think the draft down the main straight is too hectic. We may not be close enough for that in these tin tops. But yeah, certainly you think we can see all the drivers settling down into a rhythm right now and sort of spacing themselves out. You can also see that in the track map in the top right hand corner of the screen, just underneath the SimRace Africa flag. So Mike LaRue there in the Black Widow Racing or BWR multicolored livery, almost looks like a bit of a tie-dye t-shirt. Very cool effect going on there, nice and glossy as well. Apparently in 12th, looking to challenge John O'Bence in front of him. You can see he's tantalizingly close, I'm sure. But John O'Bence is no slouch either, pedaling that Ghost Works racing car as we see Hein van Niekerk make a move on Greg Hofart further down, up into 16th. Mike LaRue putting in his personal best lap right now, and yeah, certainly behind this train of cars which is being held up by Peter Geldernes right now. And just behind we see Sas van der Westhuizen and John O'Bence and Mike LaRue as we've just seen. It's looking back now on Peter Geldernes on Sas van der Westhuizen and just how close he's getting underneath that rear wing of Peter Geldernes. Weaving left and right, trying to find a way past, and it looks like he's gone alongside. We'll have to see if he can make this move stick. Got the inside line. Can he hang on? Peter can maybe slingshot around the outside. We'll have to see how it comes down to the final corner, but Sas has got that inside line and he's tucked it in nicely in for that pass. So I think that is done. Whether they're using push to pass now or not, it will be interesting. It looks like Sas does have it activated because it's shining blue, trying desperately to defend against Peter, who's pulled up alongside again, looking for that inside line. We see John O'Bence getting really all. There's a bit of contact from Sas there up there, and John O'Bence has also got contact with Sas as they kind of sandwich themselves in between, but all keep running as well. That's another good aspect of these cars, that you can encourage this sort of a bumper to bumper, or you know, rubbing is racing, and everyone keeps on going in the same direction. Mike LaRue just putting capitalizing on the contacts with Sas van der Westhuizen as well there. That was a good little bit of action now, just guys settling back into the rhythm that they found. John O'Bence a little bit dropped back down behind now. Sas trying to make up for lost time now against Mike LaRue. It's BWR in front. All the meanwhile back up at the top, Nick Hodgson trying to chase down Philip. That gap is open to almost 2 seconds now. So I wonder if Nick is going to start thinking about a different strategy and how he can pedal his way past Philip, perhaps from a strategic point of view. Brett Krokemp, I think, has just made his way past Hardest Boyces in the point blank racing car there. And we see a big happening further down the field. Looks like James Leach Sr. has unfortunately had a moment here and turned it around, and unfortunately battering the wall there as he tries to route the car in the right direction again. Unfortunately, we don't have replays built into a set of courses to find out what happened there, but certainly caught up in a moment with something. Von Bingham putting in his fastest lap of the race right now, so he's settling into a good rhythm. So Jackie, just from a SimRace Africa perspective, those bumps and knocking that you've seen on track right now, essentially if drivers feel that they're being treated unfairly on track, they're welcome to log what we call a race investigation request for the team of stewards that we have to look into after the race. Unfortunately, we don't have enough persons essentially for doing live stewarding. But penalties can be issued post-race in the form of time penalties by the stewards team. Generally, at SimRace Africa, if you've taken someone else out on track and you know that you're responsible, we employ the gentleman's rule, where you're meant to, you know, just pull off the racing line and allow the person that you've had an accident with to recover in front of you on track. Otherwise, if you've been involved in an incident and you feel that you're not at fault, or you know you're not at fault, then keep going. But you might be reported by the stewards if that was, or reported to the stewards if that was deemed not to be the case. And penalties can range from anything from warnings right up to like the equivalents of drive-throughs or stop-go penalties, adding 30 seconds or that sort of thing onto your end lap times, and that'll ultimately affect the points. How the points work this season, so essentially there are 6 races in the season, roughly one every 4 weeks, because we rotate between this simGP, that's our Formula open wheeler car, the Sim Legends, this season we're racing the historical Maserati 250F 12-cylinder, and then our Assetto Corsa Competizione class and GT3s, the Sim GT class, so one race a week, and we rotate them all. Yeah, 6 races in the season. We have 1 drop round in the championship, so essentially only the top 5 out of your 6 races will count for your points, and that allows drivers, either just to miss a race, or if you had a bad race, or that also just helps guys who might be sick or away on holiday, or succumb to ESCOM load shedding, or who knows, just to have that sort of safety net buffer, to have a drop round available. Of course, while we're speaking as well, the other change we've made this season is the lower divisions are now racing on Monday nights as well. We used to have them racing on a Wednesday night, so all divisions are now racing at exactly the same time. And how the points work in the lower divisions is essentially let's say the points start at 100 points for P1 and go all the way down to P22. Let's say you earned, for argument's sake, 80 points in position 22 in Div 1, then position 1 in division would earn 79 points. So the points essentially just follow on from division 1. John O'Bence, we see, has just made a move past Mike LaRue, and there's a big train of cars there coming through the back straight, just heading into the final corners. Looks like Mike LaRue having a big moment there, followed by, I think it was Cameron Kelly's just gone through. Actually, I'm not sure, maybe it wasn't, but Sass has also pulled off track there. Unfortunately, a massive accident which has allowed a train of cars to go through and capitalize. And Sass, unfortunately, again finding himself in the wars this series. Mike's decided to actually dive into the pits now, perhaps repair some of that damage and do his pit stop at the same time. Tucked in behind Brett Perkamp there, heading down the main straight. Trying to make some distance, close the gap. It's an interesting question from the audience, Jackie, asking how many drivers here are driving on Fanatec versus Logitech versus Thrustmaster. My perception, I don't know the exact stats, is that the majority of drivers are on sort of entry to mid-level wheels, being either Logitech or Thrustmaster. I do know a lot of people have direct drive wheels. Fanatec, perhaps some of them, a lot of them also running custom, OSD wheels, or there is also a wheel manufacturer up in Namibia that make a particular wheel. I'm trying to think of the name of that offhand. Yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag. I'd probably say at least half of the field on, Logitech G29s, that sort of entry-level wheel as I would deem it. I have one myself. Thrustmasters, arguably only incrementally a little bit better, maybe if they're belt-driven. And then the direct drive wheels is really what you want to be after at the top end of the field rather. That going back to that sort of, well, not quite local, but I believe it's Namibia, the locally produced wheel is Insectatech, one and Jonathan Robson. They produce direct drive bases. I think the base is called the thorax wheel, and you can find details of that in our marketplace section on our Discord if you're interested. Yeah, so the thorax wheel from Insector Tech is a direct drive wheel. Not 100% sure how many Newton meters of torque on their website, but I believe it's very competitive and good value for money. There are at least 3 or 4 guys in the community using them. Oh, it's based in PTA, sorry about that, not Namibia. I don't know why I thought it was Namibia. But yeah, at least 3 or 4 guys I know in the community that have that wheel and have sung its praises very loudly, so yeah, not bad at all. 14 Newton meters up to 21 Newton meters, yeah, thanks Stanley. Okay, so we are at 35 minutes left in the race, coming up to halfway now. It'll be very interesting to see when drivers are going to take their pit stops at the top end of the field, because I think, you know, Philip and Nick and so are all just staying out there. Whether they're going to go for those splash and dashes or not, we'll have to see. Or if they start coming in very soon towards the middle of the race. You know, the average driver might just keep things simple and pit halfway through. So we may see that happening. We may start seeing some undercuts developing or some overcuts, or any splash and dashes towards the end. Just heading back down the field now. Tian Ilov still on his recovery drive, just after being involved in quite a bit of heavy contact at the beginning of the race. I think he was down at P20 at one point after those incidents. Made his way up to 14 now, trying to make up for some lost ground. Crew cam putting in a PB there as he hunts down Cameron Kelly in front of him. Just looking at the bonnets of Caden's car compared to Cameron in front of him, you can see the little bit of a panel gap there, let's say. So certainly some damage Cameron is nursing right now. Here we are on the rear view of Cameron Kelly. Just looking back at Caden crew cam. As they go down the pit main straight, you'll see him, both of them run wide. Caden closing up very sharply there under braking. But Cameron getting a good slingshot through turn 1 there. Hein van Niekerk just made a move. Side panels, that Audi also looking a little bit battered, but Heinz certainly hanging on to it. Sean Bingham is very close right now to the back end of James Leach. In fact, he's pulling onto the inside and get a wider view angle here of what's going on. So I think he was trying to make a move there on James Leach, but James just managing to hang on there. No position lost. In the background we see Brett Kirkhump's colourful Grumpy Monkey livery coming up as well. How's it, Jason Holden Jones? Yes, a direct drive will not necessarily make you faster, but I think, as you say, the case for better consistency, if anything, is perhaps the best thing. We've had many aliens in our community hang on, topping the leaderboards for seasons on end, running modest G25s, G27s. Nothing wrong with them. Nick's still holding on to that 2-second gap to Philip Minner right now. It does look like that he might be coming up on some traffic That red and black liveried car in front of him is not Philip Minnaar. So we'll have to see how they get on shortly. The traffic. Roxanne Bartle making a move on Renia Leach further down. See as Nick is just making his way past that back marker now safely. We see Jonathan Benz diving into the pits now, so he's made his move. And a couple of other cars overtaking him, of course, in the pits. Cameron Kelly's still extremely close to Caden Krewkamp. They're trying to hang on. We've got Brett Kirkhamp and Sean Bing who've just swapped positions here. Brett getting a little bit sideways through that final corner here. It looks like Brett has his push to pass activated, so you know, after getting past and making the move, just trying to make it stick with the push to pass on. As we see Shiren Rajpal just activate his now as well. Looks like he's trying to defend hard, make up some lost ground there. He's got 8 activations left. Very interesting looking down the tower of push to pass activations remaining. There's a lot of cars in the midfield that have run out of push to passes, and then some of the further back end of the field have kept quite a few in reserve, and then certainly at the top again, quite a few guys have kept a lot in reserve. Noting that they do start with 15. What's very interesting to note is that Phillips used 2. Nick has still got all 15 activations in the bag. Just remember that when drivers do activate to push to pass, you know, it's active for about 10 seconds or so, but then goes down into a cooldown period before you can reactivate it. So at some point, Nick is just going to start opening the taps and using 1 or 2 a lap. So we'll have to see how that develops. We see Hein getting past Sass there as they come down the main straight. You can see him running very defensive on the inside line here into T1. We'll have to see what Sass does as he tries to pull out again and go the outside, which we know is a faster line. If he can slingshot his way around, which he does try and do, and gain a lot of speed, hopefully there's no contact. He goes around the outside and makes that move stick. So great racing there. We'll have to see if Hein can come back at him at all, but I think that just the momentum that Sass, you know, sort of proved there by running wide through T1 is perfectly acceptable. Shiraz Dada making a move now on Tian Ilaf, getting past for P16. Jackie Hauser, sorry, just saying you want a little update on the cars, liveries, and who's pitted how many times and not. So at the moment there's only a few drivers who have pitted. There were 1 or 2 that pitted very early for damage. I think Mike LaRue was one of them that you can see down at the bottom end. John Benz did pull the trigger roughly about halfway. We've seen John Benz for Ghost Rig Racing come in. But all of the drivers at the top end of the field have yet to take their pit stop. So Philip Minnaar, Nick Hodgson, Charles Wilkin, Brett Kirkham, Sean Bingham, all these guys have not pitted at all yet. They have about 17 minutes left to do so. Obviously at the top middle of your screen you can see the clock counting down. 27-ish minutes left of this race. Of that, the pit window is still only open for another 17 minutes. As you see in the background there, a couple of cars. This looks like Shiren Rajpal rather coming into the pits for his pit stop, so a couple of cars going past now. So yeah, certainly a couple more cars looking to bite. That pit window is only open 10 minutes into the race and closes 10 minutes before the end of the race, so guys will need to pit soon. Well, within the next 17 minutes. So Shiren exiting the pits now. We'll have to see where he filters out. A little bit of a scrape on the wall there. You saw the sparks, and it looks like he's going to filter in behind Renia Leach for Team Leach Racing there. Oh, very sideways coming out of the corner there. I'm not sure if that's, you know, just coming out of the pits there. You haven't got your tires quite up to temperature yet. just the different feeling of new grip will maybe put fuel in that's now affected the balance of the car. It's not exactly something you want to be doing. Can we show you the tyre wear? Unfortunately, I don't think we can. And we see Cameron Kelly diving into the pits now. So he's chosen to take his pit stop now. Yeah, unfortunately we can't really see driver wear from a spectator TV broadcaster perspective. Drivers will be able to see their own tyre wear, in particular if they run apps such as Pro Tires, if they run Crew Chief. The audio engineer can actually tell you how your tyres are doing while you're racing, which is very useful to have, but unfortunately none of that information is exposed to us right now on the live stream. So we can just speculate about how they're getting on. Nick Hodgson right now is seemingly putting some pressure down. That 2-second gap to Philip Munner has come down to 1.3. So perhaps a little bit of wear going on, or maybe Philip had a moment. But yeah, that's a good point, Matthew. You can see some of the guys who are starting to drift around corners, not having the best of grip anymore. Could be a good indication of wear. What I can tell you right now is the compound that everyone is on, and it looks like the entire field is on hards. I want to say except, but as I skim through my list, nope, they're all on hards right now. Which I think is the good choice. Mediums are not going to last, they'll just burn up in about 2 or 3 laps. Cameron Kelly, oh, there's Kieran there on the back of James Leach Sr. Leach getting past Hein for Nico, but I think that's only because Hein has just pulled into the pits. Yep, and he's doing a stop there. There's a lot of drivers coming in now. Sean Bingham in P5, looking into the back of Brad Crocamp with James Leach closely behind. But yeah, all top 5-6 cars have not yet pitted, so it's going to be very interesting to see who bites first. Another interesting thing I've just seen is that Philip Minnow may be feeling the pressure here. A moment ago he had 14 push-to-passes remaining. He's now down to 11. That may have been in response to seeing Nick Hodgson come up behind him and dropping that gap down from 2 seconds to 1.2. It's now gone back up to 1.5. As we see Philip, I think, just getting around a little bit of a back marker there. But yeah, that may have just been in response to the gap between Nick and just trying to manage that a little bit. Nick Hodgson chilling in P2 here with all 15 activations left. I've just seen Philip use another P2P down to 10 now down the main straight. So yeah, he certainly is looking to push quite hard. Maybe that's an indication that he's going to pit very soon and he wants to put in some quick laps. Then crossing those yellow sausage curves, which I know from experience can unsettle the car, and it's not exactly the quickest way around or to maintain speed around that corner. And we see Kieran Patterson getting around James Leach Sr. just coming through those S-bends. That's not John Bence's Ghostwix car. Quite sure who that is in front of him right now. Tian Elof make his way, battling with Shiraz. Sparks are flying. You can actually see on the track map in your top right corner, the active driver that I'm focused on now, Tian Elof, is the little green arrow. The blue arrow just in front of him is helping us know that that is a back marker currently being shown. The blue flags in there. That car dives into the pits and gets out of the way. Tian is essentially released from that. Here we go. Philip and Charles are in the pits. So they have bitten. Nick is opting to stay out. So that's differing strategies. We'll have to see how it is. Philip is exiting the pits now. It's just exited. So I can see they're about plus 19 seconds now to Nick that was lost in that pit stop maneuver. A couple of other drivers taking the bite now as well. Hardis and Peter Geldenes both in the pits as well. They're also going to be exiting literally nose to tail. They had to yield a little bit so the cars didn't overlap and cause a crash. And now we can see Nick is using his push to passes. It's just doctored down from 15, 14 to 13 activations remaining. Philip uses another one as well, down to P9. So they're really trying to pile the pressure on now and make up those gaps. Looks like Peter Geldenes fighting with Sharan Rajpal here side by side. Position goes a little bit off track there, Peter, which just allows Sharan to get past safely. About 18 minutes left and about 8 minutes of the pit window, so whoever hasn't pitted will need to do so in the next 8 or so laps to do so safely. Of course, if they miss their pit stop window completely, they will be immediately teleported to the pits and disqualified. So they're going to be very careful of that. Looking like he's getting a little bit squirrely there, followed very closely by John O'Bence. As we see Nick now in the pits doing his pit stop there, so it'll be very interesting to see now where he comes out in comparison to Philip Minnaar. Where is Philip coming down the main straight as we speak? So this is going to be very interesting to see where they filter out. I think Nick's going to be comfortably in front and immediately using the push to pass, trying to make sure that he stays ahead of Philip Minnaar, who has been gobbling down those P2Ps himself and is now down to 9, looks like 9 activations remaining. Versus Nick's 12. So certainly Nick having the upper hand here, I think, with track position as well as push to passes in the bag. Philip gobbles up another one down to 8 now, trying to make up for lost ground. He's also going to be struggling now with traffic, and will try and make his way past cars as quickly as possible. Sass making a move past Caden Krewkamp there for P7. Also on a very good recovery drive, having been involved in some very early incidents on track that put him further down the field. Yeah, it looks like some back markers getting well out of the way there of the leaders coming through for T1. Charles Wilkin now heading into P5, but I think that's just because James Leach has decided to take his pit stop for Team Leech Racing. You can see the OC Brewery livery in all its glory there on the overhead shot. About to come through the final corner now to the back or the main straight. See Gregory Hofart diving into the pits now. Just going to allow a couple more cars to get past. Shiraz making his way up. Charles Wilkin making a move. No, it's also just Sean Bingham pitting. Lots of sparks flying on as they go over the sausage curbs there. The exit of T1. So that gap now between Philip and Nick is about 2.7. Sort of stable just before the pit stops. It was 2 seconds and then down to 1.3. So I think Nick has definitely got the upper hand in terms of the pit stops and when he came in. But he's also now gobbling through the push to pass activations. He's got about 11 left. Philip having 7. I think you can probably use about 1 to 2 per lap with the cooldown activation period and that sort of thing. So a little further down the field again, we have Roxanne Barton coming down the main straight. Just into T1 there, Mark Carew, Renia Leach, Greg Hofart having a little battle here. Just quickly seeing Hardest Boyce is just, no, he's getting past because of Caden Crewcamp pitting. And there's Brett into the pits from P3. Here he's making his stop. We'll have to see how quick that is. Relatively quick, so that is pretty much a splash and dash, I think, with 3 minutes left of the pit window. And that's allowed Sass up into 6th position right now as he also dives into the pits though. So yeah, all the drivers coming in for their pit stops just at the tail end of the window. Rob, unfortunately I can't see exactly who hasn't pitted yet, but at this stage I'm pretty sure it's the entire field has pitted at least once. How long does the push to pass last? So it gives you about 30 HP for about 10 seconds roughly, I'd say. And then it enters a cooldown period before you're able to activate it again, which I think is around about 30 seconds. So laps remaining will depend. I mean, this is a timed race. You can see in the top middle there we have about 12 minutes and 30 seconds-ish left. Drivers are doing about 53s, 54 second lap times. So I think you can probably expect 14 or so, 15 laps remaining at this stage. Peter Caldenes doing very well to hang into the top 10 right now. Stuck behind Shenraj Paul in 8th. Still good to see all 22 drivers that qualified for Division 1 tonight still out there on track. Everyone is doing pretty well to hang on despite some of the damage they may have incurred. You can see obviously James Leach's bonnet here is looking a little bit worse for wear. But yeah, kudos for sticking with it. Let's have a look up there at James Leach up in 6th position, coming up to the back of Sean Bingham as they come down the main straight. The gap is down to about 0.6ish, 0.7. So we'll see how that compares to in about a lap's time. Gap between Philip and Nick at the top is still pretty stable at about 2.9 seconds. Keep an eye on that as well. James Leach here in 6 has 9 push-to-passes remaining, which is quite a lot compared to Sean only of having 5 in front of him. So it may come into play in the dying stages of this race if he decides to use a bit more, as we actually see both of them activate their push-to-passes now. Sean feeling a little bit pressured as he comes under attack by James Leach, just trying to make his way past with the back marker traffic as well diving out of the way. And it looks like he will have this move done if he sticks to the inside line. And yep, that's a very neat pass there, well done. Those blue flags, Matthew, are going to have waved very frantically. Go on, Michael, this is not right. Where's the safety car? Charles activating his push to pass now. We see it blink yellow down the main straight as well, just trying to maintain some distance to either the guys behind or stay with the guys in front. From Nico, just get past Greg Hofart there. Quite a bit of gap to spare, so I'm not sure what happened there. That gap at the top, Phillips now stretched, or Nick stretched the gap up to 3.7. To see a lot of cars going sideways through that final corner. I think that was Kieran Patterson flashing his lights at someone. Not sure if out of frustration or just after maybe yielding the position as a back marker or under blue flag racing. As we see those leaders plow through. Philip Minard and the other Grumpy Monkey liveried car there, which I think was Sachs. Yep, Sass and Philip Minard are basically on the same piece of tarmac right now, neck and neck. Slightly different positions, but yeah. Roxanne Bottle making a move past. Shit, it's Mike LaRue coming in for a pit stop. Not sure what that was, with the pit stop window being closed for quite some time now, so perhaps he had already made an initial. In fact, he did make an initial pit stop. I remember him pitting very early in the stages of the race, probably to repair some damage. And maybe he decided or realized that he was going to run out of fuel if he didn't pit again for a second time. Peter Caldney still hanging onto the back of Strand Rajpal. Running very tight inside line there. Very defensive, in other words. Let's see the push to pass activations. Sharan rather has 4. Just been used. Peter Caldney 8. So Peter clips the wall a little. Probably just trying to have a widen that turn and open it up as much as possible, but I think Peter's going to be challenging Sharan Rajpal here now, having a solid advantage on push to passes remaining. You can see them getting very, 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 very close. Here's why I flick through some cameras, just trying to find a rear view here on Sharan Rajpal as Peter Caldney looks for a little dive up the inside, but that gap got closed very quickly. one battle to keep an eye on in the dying stages of this race. A little over 6 minutes left, and we'll see what happens. Further up front again, we can see Nick harvesting or cool down on this push to pass down the front. Heading straight, heading down to T1. Just trying to keep that gap from Philip Minner, who's also just heading through T1 now. Bingham obviously looking to try and make a place up to 5th position, but he only has 2 push to passes remaining to James Leach's 7th, so it's going to be quite tricky unless he pounces in a really good position. Nick right now is just continuing to farm through his remaining push to passes, 4 remaining. Back marker getting out of the way there. Again, he's made a pretty good recovery drive up from P20 or so. Made up 10 positions, currently holding P10. And also rapidly, no, not so rapidly, approaching Peter Feldness in P9, who's still behind Raj Paul. He's got 7 push to passes remaining. He needs to start using them. There's only about 4 minutes left in this race. If he wants to make up any time on Raj Paul here. Ron Bingham has just passed James Leach, P5. Point blank racing. And Brad Krugkamp, another driver sitting up in P4 right now, has the most push to passes remaining of any of the drivers in the top 5, or maybe even top 10. So he could certainly use some more. But as you can see, a long way down behind Charles Wilkin in P3 right now. It's Nick and Philip down to 3 push to pass activations remaining as they just try and hang on through these last 4 or 5 laps of the race. Philip can literally see Nick on the horizon, but there's about 1 or 2 cars of traffic in between them. Just going to make life difficult. A lot of traffic here for Cameron Kelly as he negotiates turn 1. Almost side by side there with another couple of cars. I think that's Roxanne Bartle. As he manages to get that move done. Roxanne's looking to get a little bit up the inside, but that door was shut very quickly, and there's also a point blank car there in the mix just behind them. Another move we actually just missed is that Peter Kolnes has managed to get past Raj Paul, so that move finally got made. And we do have Hardest Boyser as well, inching closer and closer to James Leach. He is, or has just used his very last push to pass. Somewhat sandwiched in the middle of traffic here. Now 5 seconds, still behind Nick in the lead. Certainly a lot of traffic that guys have had to deal with over this latter half of this race. See where it has started using his push to passes again. It was from 10, he's now down to 6, so he's using them all up. I think generally everyone has across the field except for a couple of cars in the lower section. Some of them have double digits of push to passes remaining. Quite a lot of traffic here now as we go back on board with Peter Geldnes. Right, he's getting a lot of traffic. So I flick through the cameras here, trying to find a good onboard camera. But Shirin Rajpal essentially getting the better of Peter Geldnes, so we can see behind him, and James Leach has just dived into the pits. Oh, what has happened to James Leach? Has he run out of fuel? I think he's needing to make a splash and dash on the final lap. That definitely was a splash and dash. That's deeply unfortunate. A slight fuel miscalculation there, and that has cost him dearly as he drops down the leaderboard there. Oh, and there's been a pile up on the main straight here between Caden Crowcamp and just the guy's not getting out of the way there as well. Unfortunately, trying to rejoin, that may have been an unsafe rejoin. It's unfortunate. May lead to a steward's inquiry if anyone felt hard done by there at the end. Certainly we see someone waiting off track here. Is that some more incidents here? Hein van Niekerk seems to have just basically stalled. May also just be some shenanigans at the end of the race of cars are piling into each other. That's probably what's happened. Alright, and there we have the race finished, so big congrats to Nick Hodson, who takes the win safely from Philip Minnaar in second position, and Charles Wilkin rounding up the podium. And let's go and see if we have any drivers in the off-air room waiting for us at all. Not yet, but they may just still be running. Excellent, so while we wait and see if we have anyone in the off-air channel, we do indeed. Hey Nick, how's it going?
How are you?
Nick, are you with us? I'm not sure if I can hear you. Nick, I can see you transmitting, but your voice is not coming through. So that is unfortunate. Let me just quickly go to our post-race interviews clip. And we'll see if we can, work through the technical difficulties. Nick, I can hear you now. How are you doing?
Aha, something had changed on my side. That's yeah, not bad, Ryan. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. A little hot and sweaty in Cape Town right now, but congrats on your initial win of the simTC round 1.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Yes, it was a difficult one, I must admit, to work out the strategy for, but yeah, I managed to hook up Collie, so that was a bit of a weight off my shoulders, and then
great job. And it looked like your biggest competition was perhaps Philip Minnaar behind you.
Yeah, I was surprised that Charles didn't have insane race pace, because he's generally really good with that.
It looked like Charles may have been, maybe we'll be some banter on some TC channel later, but it looks like he may have been involved with some early game incidents, early race incidents rather. At some point he sort of just dropped off a bit.
Okay, I didn't see that.
It's also very interesting to see the use of P2P as well. I mean, talk us through that. What is your strategy in that regard?
So I thought I'd see if I could risk it off the line,
Mm.
and it turns out I can't. So both Philip and Charles got me off the line.
Yeah.
Which I was a
Risk
bit
it as in
disappointed.
not using the P2P, you mean?
Yeah, they both
Yeah,
clearly used P2P.
Because I noticed you kept 15 activations in the bag for quite some time.
Yeah.
And Philip and co actually making more liberal use of it in the early stages of the race.
So for me, it was quite simple. I was running very heavy fuel, and I knew Philip was running less fuel than me. I didn't know how much less, but I knew he was running less fuel.
Yeah.
So the strategy was let him and Charles battle and see what happens. So I was hoping they were going to use a couple of P2Ps each, battle, and then they'll sort themselves out. Then if I can stick with them and hang with them, then I wouldn't bother using P2P. And once myself and Philip got past Charles, I noticed that I could kind of maintain the same pace as Philip. I think the gap only ever got to about 2.5 seconds between us.
Yeah.
So I figured that I would gain that in the pits. So I just bided my time, and then when Philip jumped into the pits, I used a couple then, and then jumped into the pits, and I was managed to come out a little bit ahead. But effectively, because he'd got the jump on me at the start line, I thought, let me save it to the end of the race, and maybe I can get him right at the end. But
and I think that's definitely what helped you at the end there. You know, you had all those push to passes in the bag actually, and we saw Philip needing to actually use them. I think he was also caught up in a little bit more traffic towards the end there, and we saw him desperately trying to use some more activations to get past some guys and catch up to you. But by that stage, it was almost too late.
Yeah, I was a bit lucky with that, and I kept them in the bag for back markers that I needed to use it for and things like that.
Yeah.
So it was, but it was good. It was it was very, very difficult to work out what the right strategy was. And I don't even know that this will be the right strategy for all the races, because it was literally a flip of the coin for me. I only went super long and super heavy because I jumped into my rig this morning. Oh, sorry, not this morning, this afternoon, and I found a little bit of consistency with lots of weight, so I thought I'd go with that, and that was it. It was literally a roll of the dice.
Well, excellent, good job, and well managed as well. So we'll see you in the next round. I mean, obviously we're starting GP next week, and you are racing that as well, so good luck for that. And then for the rest of the TC drivers, we'll see you at New Jersey Motorsport Park in a few weeks' time. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Nick.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. We'll see you soon.
Cheers, guys. And thanks for everyone on the YouTube stream for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. Ciao, ciao.